Hey guys, this is John. I'm playing Ansatsu in the 5-minute pool on ICC. Ansatsu is rated 2276. We're opening with knight f3 once again. And what are we going to have? The fianchetto on the same side of the board? Maybe I'll get this position that I've had in recent games. Okay, I'm going to castle first before deciding whether to play d4 or not. I probably will play d4. Okay, but he goes e5. He beats me to the punch. Let's play d4 anyways. If he goes e4, probably knight g5. The knight's defended. We're attacking this pawn. Now he plays c4. So can I undermine that pawn? Or d5, rather. I was saying the move that I want to play, which is c4. Looks okay to do that. Might also think about playing f3, but I think c4 could be more to the point. I'd rather get my pawn up and then have the knight behind it to attack d5. So that's why I'm playing it like this. If h6 is played, I'll have to bring the knight back to h3, but sometimes that knight can reemerge and attack d5. So what if I just take and then play queen b3? How are you dealing with that? You're going to go knight f6, I assume? Take, queen b3, knight f6, bishop f4. Yeah, let's do that. So this is going to keep everything together for the moment, but I think after bishop f4, I have some interesting play. So let's just develop. And maybe I can stick the bishop on e5. Yeah, it might be interesting right now. Let's do it. So in many cases, threatening to take f6 and then take d5 is my thinking. Let's send this knight back. The only problem is d4 is a little bit loose, so if I take f6 and he recaptures, I may have to reckon with a weak pawn there. Instead, he's just going to take and then play knight g4. Okay, so maybe knight here, or do I take d5 right away? If I take d5 right away, he may play bishop e6, but then I have knight f4 anyways. So perhaps I should do that. I'm liking the fact that black's king is stuck in the middle. And if he castles, I have some devastating discoveries with this knight. So he can't really consider castling short right now. All right, maybe now just track his queen, rook f d1. Looks good to me. This looks incredibly precarious for black, I gotta say. I don't know if I even have a direct threat, but just the fact that his king is stuck in the middle and this knight is ready to come to f4 at a moment's notice would greatly concern me if I were black. I say I don't have a direct threat that I can see because there's nowhere this knight can go with the discovery that's truly going to kill black. Maybe queen b5 right now, check. Actually, let's just play this move. Because that threatens knight c7. It's a logical move. Simple, strong, direct moves are the way to go in Blitz chess. Okay, now knight c7 check, queen takes here, queen e7, he survives. I can also take on b7, simply. It's probably the best thing to do. That hits the bishop here as well. Hard to believe knight c7 check doesn't work, but yeah, knight c7 check, queen takes, if rook takes, he takes b3 and he's fine. So I think queen takes b7 is just going to be the way to go right now. The fact that it hits this bishop is great for us. And also knight c7 now truly is a threat. Yeah, I don't see how black deals with this. If he castles, I can play knight e7 check and then win his queen on d8. Yeah, he just resigned. All right. That's for those of you who say that knight f3 on move 1 can't be dangerous for white. Fear knight f3. No, but black just took some liberties with his development. This is what happens when you try to establish space with your pawns, especially when you're black. I mean, taking a lot of space in the opening as black is always a risky proposition because you're going to be that half tempo behind compared to your white counterpart, and you may pay the price. White may get an initiative and smush you. So let's go back and see. Pretty standard stuff, the first few moves at least. So I castled. Yeah, and e5 is really encouraging me to play d4. So, I mean, knight f6 would be normal, after which I probably would have played d4 anyways. And after castling, this is a theoretical position. But he played e5 and gave me a reason to advance and attack his pawn. It's possible he could just play something like knight c6 or maybe even knight e7 and argue that this ending is acceptable for him. I don't know if that's actually the case, but it looks reasonable for black. But advancing the pawn is probably the most obvious move. If he takes it, then I take with the knight and I'm opening my bishop. He may have trouble getting his light square bishop out. This also is playable for black, but I would rather be white. So he advances, and then I play knight g5, attacking the pawn on e4 twice. He plays d5 to support it, and now c4, so we start undermining these pawns. Because if I were to simply develop my pieces now, that would justify black's idea in grabbing space and then catching up on development. The thing I have going here for white is my lead in development. And I need to exploit that. I need to hit black where it hurts, undermine his pawns, make developing moves with tempo if possible, and try to punish him for already having made, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pawn moves in the first 6 moves. And you have to shift your thinking like that. That's very important. And sometimes it even helps to mechanically say, my opponent has made 5 pawn moves in the opening out of his first 6 moves. I know I should attack in this case. I probably have a lead in development. So c4, knight c3. Yep, f5. Maybe f5 is overreaching. I was happy to see that move, even if I didn't express it in my commentary, because I feel like once he plays f5, he's truly committed to this pawn push strategy. And now this is the 7th pawn move out of 8 moves. It's probably too much. I think he should play something like knight f6 or knight e7, let's say knight f6, and defend the pawn on d5 so he can get ready to castle. He doesn't need the extra protection on e4, so I don't really see what f5 gains him. I may play f3 at some stage to attack e4, but he could always take then, so I don't think playing to further bolster this pawn on e4 makes much sense for him. So take, and then I get to play queen b3. Knight f6 makes sense, just defending. Now bishop f4. So here again is a moment where he could think about castling and trying to secure his position. If he castles, I was considering this move, trying to eliminate the knight so I can win d5. I'm going to add the computer right here. So the engine's giving a small edge for white. Nothing major, though. I wonder what it thinks about f5. If we could just back up for a moment. Yeah, it likes h6, kicking the knight back, and then what, just developing, or even making another pawn move g5. The engine can break rules like that. But we as humans sometimes pay the price. I suppose g5 makes some sense. That stops my knight from coming to f4. Still, I would be hesitant to play this way if I were black. I mean, I would just prefer to do something like this, barring anything else. C takes d5, c takes d5, f3, take, knight takes. Yeah, I would just want to do something like that and secure my position. Maybe the computer still thinks white's better, but this looks acceptable for black to me. So queen b3, knight f6, also knight e7 is possible to defend from that square. Yeah, and bishop e5 is crucial, because if I don't have bishop e5, I may have to slow down for a moment, because knight takes d4 is a threat. So if I have to play something like rook f d1, I feel like I'm letting black off the hook, and they're safely going to whisk their king away to the king side and be okay. So bishop e5, on the other hand, is an attacking and a defensive move. It defends the d4 pawn and always threatens to take on f6 and eliminate a defender of the d5 pawn. Even still, he can castle. Because if I take, I assume, yeah, queen takes, and if knight takes d5, he can chop here. And I can even win his rook, but that may not matter. I'm taking a lot of liberties to go win a rook in the corner. He can take d4. Black has 2 strong bishops. This knight might even perish in the long run. The queen's attacked, e2 is attacked. So more than likely, if he had castled, I would not have gone for this idea. I probably would have played something else, like, yeah, rook fd1 or maybe knight h3. Instead, he does this, knight h3, Yeah, and taking, I think, is just straight up bad. I don't think even the engine will be able to defend that move. Could he castle again? I guess here, yeah, knight f4, attacking this and this. We can keep our bishop here for a moment. We don't necessarily have to take. This is much more difficult. It's better for black, actually, if the knight's on g5, it seems, because then his queen has some discovered attack potential there. But knight takes e5, d takes e5, and now things are rapidly going downhill for black. Yeah, now if he were to castle, at the very least, I can check and go take the rook for free. So that's not good. So he went here. I played rook f d1, just x-raying his queen. g5, another pawn move. Now rook a c1 and knight c7 is coming. And we're in almost +3 territory. So if knight c6 is played, what could I do? I just saw that was the top move of the engine. I'm going to try not to look at the engine eval and instead come up with a continuation on my own. Because knight c6 makes sense in that it stops knight c7 check. It also opens his bishop. His king is still in the center. I feel like I have some good options against this, but clearly this is more challenging. Maybe knight b4? Knight b4, queen b6 though. Doesn't look like much. Maybe f3 and try to pry open the center. Still his king is stuck in the middle for now, so that's nice. I'd like to include this knight. That would be great if I could. Yeah, I would say something like f3 would be a move I would consider now. Maybe moving the queen, but I don't see anywhere truly good for the queen. Maybe queen b5 to bother him, but nah, there's not really much of a threat, once again. The engine wants to play g4. If knight c6, g4. So if take, bishop takes e4 and just sack a piece, because I guess I'm maybe threatening to come in here in some cases. Okay, so if take, bishop g6, king f8, queen f3.
Check.
Yikes, yeah, and black is getting mated or losing a catastrophic amount of material. Because if king g8, there's queen f7 mate. G4 is certainly creative. I probably would not have found that. What about f3? What does it think about this move? Yeah, also likes f3. Plus 1.5 to 2 for white. But that would have been a better defense, at least. Knight c6. I think bishop e6 after queen takes b7, there's just too much stuff to keep track of for him. Because knight c7 is a threat, and we're hitting the bishop. And if he castles, we have knight e7, supported by the queen, and we win black's queen. So he gave it up right here. All right, so I think this game is an illustration of the problems with delaying your development in favor of pawn moves. And if you notice your opponent doing that, you have to shift your mindset to take the initiative. You want to jump at that opportunity, especially if they're like establishing a lot of space with those pawns, like in the center. Because if you wait around for a couple moves and let your opponent encroach on your territory, they're going to catch up in development, and you might find yourself with a tough middle game where you're trying to counteract your opponent's space advantage. So don't let them do that. Shift your mindset, try to go on the attack, play for the initiative. Don't let those pawn moves go unpunished. Anyways, if you have any questions about this game, let me know, and I'll be back soon again with another video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.